Financial argument. Follow us on YouTube.
Now, we know that the economy is completely manipulated by the U.S. government central bankers, and we know the unemployment numbers are completely manipulated. And Sovereign Investor and John Williams, they dug deep into the BLS numbers. And they were looking at the numbers, and what they found out is that the BLS, they inflate their monthly account of new hires with about 200,000 fake jobs. And this is including jobs conjured up by the birth-death model that are meant to account for new employment in startup companies that are too new to count. Now, the fact that the BLS has been adding an average of 200,000 fake jobs to the monthly payroll in recent years, and this is also confirmed by the March 2015 benchmark downside revisions that subtracted 206,000 jobs, the actual employment picture has become so weak, they have been adding monthly upside biases. So the bottom line is that the 4.5 million jobs announced during the Obama presidency never really existed. They were statistical adjustments inserted into the data reflecting outdated historical ratios that no longer hold true. And you don't need to be a rocket scientist to figure this out, because you can see how this is completely faked. The fake employees cannot form the basis of a strong economy. Employers are not writing checks to employees that don't exist outside of the statistical model. Federal personal tax receipts reflect it. State sales tax reflect it. Declining productivity reflects fake jobs. So when we look at this, millions of fake employees can't do anything. This is why we're seeing the difference between what the government and the central bankers are telling us about how the job market is rebounding, and when we're looking at manufacturing, industrial production, we're looking at retail, we're looking at the tax receipts. This is why it doesn't make sense, because you can just fake it so far. And this is exactly what we're seeing. They are completely making all of this up. Now, out in the UK, after the murder of MP Joe Cox, we saw already there's a petition on the UK website where they want to postpone the referendum or cancel the referendum. And we can see that this whole thing was perfect timing, because the vote comes up very soon. I think it's the 23rd of June. And all of this is happening at the same time, and they're trying to reach the 100,000 signatures as quickly as possible. Very interesting, because all of a sudden the government will look at that and say, you know what, maybe we should cancel this. And we're going to have to watch and see what happens there. Now, a couple of weeks ago, we know the Normandy 4, the advisors have met, and they all agreed on the 11 principles of disengagement in Donbass. And what they're saying right now is that Kiev must follow this, and the principles by both sides must be implemented by July 1st. And that's only a week or two away, and we're going to have to watch that situation very carefully. But something more interesting is that the Department of State, they decided to update their travel warning in Ukraine. And they updated it, and they included Crimea, Donetsk, Lugansk, and they're saying that any U.S. citizen in that area should now depart. This supersedes any other travel warning in Ukraine. And we're seeing the same exact warning that we're seeing for the Middle East, for Europe, for the United States. We're seeing it in Ukraine. And this is just another indicator. And we're continually seeing more and more indicators letting us know that something is about to happen here. Military assets are being moved into position. We have 2 aircraft carriers in the Mediterranean with their strike groups. We see the 2 bases that the United States has built, bringing in military assets and troops into the area. Special op teams from all different countries are there. All these travel advisories. We see out in Yemen right now, the U.S. military now plans to keep a force of special operation advisors in Yemen. And they're supposed to be only limited and for a short period of time. Well, guess what? They're there for the foreseeable future. There is no time limit. And the Pentagon, they dispatch another special operations team to Yemen. Now, they're on a separate mission. They're going to assess the security and size of the local figures who might cooperate with the United States. The first special op team that was there sent temporarily, they're going after and they're tracking down Al-Qaeda militants, which really means those people who oppose the new government, the puppet government, I should say, the puppet government in Yemen, and they're trying to weed them out, seek, destroy, get rid of them. And we see already that the United States needs to retake the Middle East, because if they don't, and they allow the people of these countries to take control, they will kick out the central bank. They will not sell the oil using the dollar, and the dollar will collapse. And this is why they're trying to maintain control by killing as many people as they possibly can in this area. Now, we understand the UN, back on June 2nd, decided to create this report about Saudi Arabia, and they called it the Child Killers Blacklist. And they came up with this report saying that, yes, Saudi Arabia is killing children, they're using cluster bombs. And then all of a sudden, UN Secretary General announced that the regime was to be removed from the list pending further investigation. He just backtracked on the whole entire thing. And then we find out on Thursday that the House of Representatives voted against banning the transfer of cluster bomb munitions to Saudi Arabia. So the sale is back on. They're going to be providing cluster bombs to Saudi Arabia. Now, we have to remember, cluster bombs remain banned by an international treaty signed by 119 countries, except for the United States, of course, because American officials argue that the cluster bombs coming out of the United States, they have special fail-safe features where if a child picks up one of the unexploded munitions, they won't explode. So it's okay for us to do it, but other countries, they should not be able to do this. Very interesting. Now, we understand the transitional government in Syria is supposed to occur on August 1st. We know the United States government, the central bankers, the coalition forces, they want Assad removed. And the opposition right now, the moderate rebels, they refuse to participate in the formation of a national unity government in Syria. If Assad is in power, they will not be part of it whatsoever. They will not attend any meetings, and they will not deal with Assad. Now remember, the only way to remove Assad is through the people. But the United States, they don't want this to happen this way. They want to remove the elected leader themselves and put in a government they feel would be the best government. They did this in Libya. They put in a government. It was not elected. They said this is good for the people, and the people are saying, no, we don't want this government. The people in Yemen are saying, we don't want Hadi and the puppet government in here. We want our own government. But, for a nation that's supposed to be free, supposed to be democratic, it doesn't seem like they're pushing this to other countries. It seems like they're deciding who the leaders are going to be. Now, John Kerry is going to consider the military strikes against the Syrian government. We know this letter came out with 50 or so diplomats from the State Department. And we can see this is to create chaos and to make Obama look good. So Obama's out there saying, no, I don't want war with Syria. I'm not going to put boots on the ground. And then we see all of a sudden these 50 diplomats who want war, and we can see what's happening at this point. Obama will look okay. He wasn't calling for war, but we have to go to war. The question is, how are they going to do it? How are they going to set this off? Because if you really think about it, how does Obama move this forward? Well, he would have to go to Congress, He would have to make his case, and they would have to vote on it, and they would have to say, okay, we grant you the right to go to war. Is this going to happen? Most likely not just out of the blue. If the U.S. decides to go ahead and just attack without Congress's permission, the United Nations, well, that's a problem there because Syria is a sovereign state with an elected president. There is no mandate from the UN Security Council. They will consider this a hostile act and a flagrant violation of international laws. So this is another problem. If they decide just to go ahead and attack, there's Russia and China, where, there's going to be a confrontation between these two countries. So what are they going to have to do to push this forward? Well, most likely, they're going to have to use some type of false flag. They're going to have to make it look like Turkey's being attacked. They're going to have to make it look like something happened in Syria or Iraq or maybe throughout Europe and the United States. We don't know for sure, but they need something dramatic to convince the world, to convince Congress, to convince the UN that it is time to go into Syria. We can see that they've gotten everything into place. They've gotten Europe into place. Special op teams are already on the ground. Military assets are already on the ground. And we see there's 2 aircraft carriers with the strike groups right in the Mediterranean. They've been building the supplies in Jordan with the drills. Everything is standing by. Troops, military assets. We saw this happen back in 2013, 2014, 2015. Here we are in 2016. The same exact thing is happening once again. We see Turkey right now. Well, they're setting up new air defense systems on their borders with Syria. The system has a twin 35mm gun that fire airburst ammunition and has a range of about 4 kilometers and can fire 1,100 rounds per minute. What is this going to be used for? Well, Turkey has made the case that since the Islamic State is firing rockets into Turkey, they need this type of system. Well, of course, we know that was a false flag. So Turkey's Korkut self-propelled anti-air gun, they're going to be ordering 42 of these systems and 14 command vehicles to be delivered this summer. So we can see right now this is going to be used to destroy any rockets coming into Turkey. They already have the high mobility artillery rocket system, the HIMARS, and they also have armed drones on the border. They're building a wall. 70% is now complete. It is 5 meters high, including 4 meters of concrete and 1 meter of razor wire. This wall will be monitored 24/7 with unmanned bubble surveillance systems, dubbed mini Zeppelins. This was created and installed by DHS. Jay Johnson was out there doing this. So at this point, what are we seeing? We're seeing everything come together all at once. And we're seeing all these indicators, which is showing that something is being prepared. They're getting ready for something. And when we look at the full view of what is going on here, we know the private Western central bank economies, they're deteriorating very, very fast. We see the debt level is increasing. We have negative interest rates. We have the manipulated statistical information that is moving further and further apart from what the real economy is doing. So we can expect some type of an event coming up very soon. We don't know what it's going to be, but we all need to have our eyes open. We need to be looking everywhere. We need to understand that this is going to be an event that was planned. So the United States, the central bankers, the coalition forces can maneuver into removing Assad. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.